the safer thing to do would be for men.
Keep men away. Go on, you old dyke. Polish everything like that.
Would be for men to just maybe not carry illegal substances around and poison women. That would be a good start.
Yes.
4, 6, 8.
Stop the violence, stop the hate.
2, 4, 6, 8.
Stop the violence, stop the hate.
What do we want?
Safety.
When do we want it?
Now.
What do we want?
Safety.
When do we want it?
Now.
2, 4, 6, 8.
Stop the violence, stop the hate.
2, 4, 6, 8.
Stop the violence, stop the hate.
And I would like to give a warm welcome to everyone who's taken the time to come out this evening, and I'm really pleased to see so many of you here after a long break due to COVID-19. So, welcome to our Reclaim the Night March. We're all here this evening to support an annual campaign against sexual harassment and gender-based violence. We're here to march for an end of violence and the right to feel safe on our streets at night. As a students' union, we strongly believe in the importance to come together as a whole student body to rally for student safety in the nighttime economy. Today, although the voices of activism and survivors have reached a point that will not be silenced or ignored, ending violence against all will require more investment, leadership and action, especially during the unfolding of the COVID-19 crisis. I'd like to thank Geraint Thomas, Sophie Morgan from WalkSafe and Charlie on behalf of the Students' Union for being here this evening.
And still scared is quite appalling. And the fact that we can't go out and enjoy ourselves, and the fact that women are scared is horrendous. And I completely agree that the police probably aren't doing everything they can to help us, although they would like to think they are. There's violence in other areas and other categories that are far more, according to them, important than us. And I run the WalkSafe Swansea group, and that group is there purely for your safety. We post on there pretty much daily, actually, cases of women that have been spiked, sexually assaulted, harassed, catcalled, and it's there purely so if you were ever walking home and you felt unsafe, post on that group and one of us will jump in the car and we'll come and get you. That's literally what we're here for. It doesn't matter what time of the day it is, it doesn't matter if it's the night, we're all there to help you. So if ever you feel unsafe, or if ever you feel that you don't have anyone to turn to, that is what that group is for. That is the reason we set it up. You always have someone to turn to. There's never a time where you should feel low. That's what we're there for. So I just want to say thank you everyone for turning up, and we'll definitely continue there.
It's been said my name's Geraint Thomas, but in fact it's Geraint Davis. Easy to confuse, and not at that. And great to see you all today. I mean, this is a really very important gathering. You probably want to know what am I doing about the problems for safety on the streets, for women in particular. And I'm in fact in charge of a hearing under the Democracy and Constitutional Body group I've set up, basically looking at what happened in Clapham and in Bristol, and people all know in the aftermath of Sarah Everard's brutal murder there was a vigil that was then basically dispersed physically by the police in a completely irresponsible way. When we were looking into that, and also what happened in Bristol, where people are basically campaigning to ensure we keep the right to peaceful protest. And obviously there should be public health and property protected, but ultimately we've got the right to protest for our own safety. You'll probably know that the law's being changed. The police crime in courts bill is going through, and there's a move to give the police more power, and I've put in amendments to that to basically make the police more accountable with sort of, if anything, less power, because really we want to go back to the original founding principles of the police, and Robert Peel, who essentially said the police are the people and the people are the police, and without consent and partnership and engagement the police can't work and we can't be protected. The police are supposed to protect us, look after us, keep us safe on the streets. They're not supposed to be an enforcement regime for an authoritarian government. And then obviously in terms of safety on the streets, the latest chapter is the appalling incidents of spiking in particular of women, and in particular now with physical needles. And the idea of actually stabbing someone with what in essence is a weapon, with a poison, with a view to probably raping, sexually assaulting someone is, you know, almost beyond belief. Now, obviously this has been emerging across the country. I put this to the police. The police's original response was all actually this is perception and there isn't any evidence, and what's more, police forces across the country have found this as well, which obviously is completely remarkable that all of a sudden, you know, this has been reported across the country and there's no evidence. I mean, it's obviously ridiculous. So I'd had a couple of cases already. I called a meeting, a number of people, some of whom are here, did attend that meeting. I'm very grateful for the quality of evidence we got. But in a nutshell, we had women and men, women who'd had a drink, women who hadn't had a drink, men who had a drink, who'd been basically drugged, poisoned, however you want to say it. There was a particular case, just by example, I knew from talking with Lisa, there's lots more cases, obviously, of just by way of example, of a woman in Bamboo who was stabbed, then she didn't know what she was doing, she was going in and out, she can't remember what was happening to her. Clearly she was vulnerable, clearly she was, you know, injected with a view that someone taking advantage of her. Clearly the police's response to that should be to protect people, to try and investigate, to get medical assistance as quickly as possible. But all too often we're finding that the police's view, and you can understand this but not accept it, that oh, you're pissed, you're drunk, you know, whatever. But frankly, if you're a young woman and you are, you know, completely out of it in terms of drinking, you are a vulnerable potential victim, irrespective of whether it's a needle or it's drink, and you should be looked after, you're safely taken, you know, home or whatever. So that was the case, and that particular woman, as she would be, was in enormous distress and trauma, post-traumatic trauma about that. Again, after going to, you know, to the hospital, you know, again, it wasn't clear that she was being treated in a sort of serious way. The police turned up the next day asking for urine samples, which is obviously a bit late for that. Then we had the case of, I won't go through all the cases, but the case of a woman who doesn't drink at all because of medical conditions, including diabetes, but other conditions, and went into a club, Bamboo, as it happens again, by coincidence, and she got again stabbed with a needle. She then had convulsions, a seizure, she was frothing at the mouth, she was taken out in a wheelchair, and you know, and again the assumption was made that she was drunk. Obviously she wasn't. There was more concern about what had happened rather than getting immediate assistance. Again, the paramedics weren't particularly helpful, but eventually did something, and eventually she got some medical assistance, and now she's got, you know, continual medical problems, kind of an operation she was going to have, and she's had difficulty speaking because of her other medical conditions. This poisoning had a particularly bad effect on her. And then there was the case of a man who was out on a student again, who was out on a night with society with a couple of friends, suddenly felt absolutely dreadful. He'd only had a couple of drinks, and clearly he wasn't about drinking. Someone had spiked his drink, phoned his girlfriend, asked her to come and get her. By the time she arrived 10 minutes later, he wasn't answering the phone, and then was found semi-conscious on the pavement, had to be dragged into the car. They said, oh, the ambulance will take 3 hours to arrive. Eventually they'd taken my car to A&E again. They said, oh, you know what, we've been drinking too much again, mate, type thing. That turned it back. Now the point about all this is, you know, obviously all those stories are awful, and there's many others, I know, but the question is, what are we going to do about it? Indeed, you're probably asking, what am I going to do about it, which is a reasonable question, and what should be done about it? And in simple terms, you know, obviously what we need is, you know, more scanning of people coming in, so we can detect, you know, drugs and needles and all the rest of it. We need better CCTV, we need access to that CCTV for evidence, we need the police charging people, we need education out there, we need the police, the local authority, and the clubs and the health authority to join up way, taking this massively seriously, so that if people are the victims, they're looked after straight away. The people who are potential perpetrators know that they're going to be scanned, and if they're found with needles on them, they're arrested, or they're detected on CCTV, they'll be followed up, charged, you know, taken to court.
2, 4, 6, 8, stop the violence, stop the hate. 2, 4, 6, 8, stop the violence, stop the hate. 2, 4, 6, 8, stop the violence, stop the hate. 2, 4, 6, 8.